Hi everyone, we're here. It's here, the finale of Livin on a Prairie. I'm Pamela Bob, the writer, creator, and star of the series, and thank you for joining us these past few weeks. It's been really, really great. Now, in today's episode, we have a very, very special guest star, but I'm not going to tell you who it is quite yet because I think you're going to be pretty surprised. Hint, hint, there are a lot of tattoos involved. So, join us after the show because it's here, the moment you've been waiting for, the cast reunion of Little House on the Prairie with some of your favorite cast members from the show. They are here. They are talking. We are getting it on after the show. And more importantly, we're here to raise money for the Actors Fund. And you can start right now by going to www.actorsfund.org/donate. And there's also a button here on our website. You can donate here as well. It's a really worthy cause. You'll hear us talking more about it. But if you want to know such pressing questions like, what was Michael Landon like? Was it a wig? And why was Melissa Sue Anderson sporting French tip nails? Then join us after the show.
Ladies' night. So we can dance all night with hot guys and who cares? Come on, we are entering the #1 relationship wasteland for single womankind. Woo! Ladies' night, ladies' night.
So, you don't like dancing, huh? No, I'm okay. Yeah. Girl, you gotta loosen up.
Excuse me?
Look, I'm not judging you. You know what I did before I had this job? I was a teacher. Everybody loved me. Bunch of small town kids in a cramped little schoolroom, but it wasn't me. So you know what I did? I hitched my wagon and I went to New York City. You know what you need? What? Tequila. You go, girl.
What are you looking for, honey?
Nothing. I mean, I got it. I got it. Thank you.
Sandstorm. From the party, right? Sandstorm. I knew it was you. Well, I just wanted to say hi. You should have said the best part. When Mary and Adam get married. They would have loved that. Nice to see you.
Hey guys, this is Pamela.
I'm Lauren.
Lauren is our technical director. And so we know that you guys are here for the reunion now. And we've got some news for you. Lauren, do you want to start?
I guess.
Explain what happened? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many schedules. There's so many things to work out and
A lot of people.
So unfortunately, we can't do a reunion special like we wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, not how we originally planned, which was to do one reunion episode with everyone all together. So we had to change plans a little bit, and instead we've decided to do two reunion specials. Gotcha. So we're going to have two reunion specials for you right now. If you can stay for the both of them, that's fantastic. If you can't, they're up on the website, livinonaprairietv.com, via YouTube. They'll be here on Facebook Watch for a while. And we hope you enjoy it. The stories were too good. We couldn't edit them down.
That's what it was. We don't want to take away any of what was happening. So the only way to do that was to give it to you all. And rather than sit it down and make it a huge, 4-hour, I don't know, long episode, we broke it up.
Extravaganza.
So
that's the news.
That's the news. As
I
we're
think
recording
you're gonna enjoy it. Yay!
Here on
All
Prairie
right,
Talk.
guys.
All right.
We'll see you. Enjoy the two-parter reunion episodes.
Yes. Enjoy.
Hi, welcome. We made it. We just finished episode 6, the finale of Livin on a Prairie, Girls' Night. And I think Pamela is going to be okay, because when a magical drag Nelly appears out of thin air, it's a pretty good sign that things are going to go okay for you. So now, without further ado, everything you guys have been waiting for, the cast reunion is here. I would like to introduce, as Alison Arngrim always says, no arrests and no convictions, some of your favorite cast members from Little House on the Prairie. Thank you so much for being here. We have Alison Arngrim, Rodimus, Charlotte Stewart, Hersha Parody, and Dan McBride, Henry Riley of chicken throwing fame. Thank you guys all for being here so much. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I know the fans do too. And before we get started, just know that pretty much everyone here has donated really great items for the online auction. So if you go to CharityBuzz.com/actorsfund, you can bid on some personalized autographed things that are really cool, or you can just donate, actorsfund.org/donate, and we'll get started. And first, I just want to say thank you so much to all of the viewers who have been watching these past 5 weeks. The response has been overwhelming. Some of you just wrote me to say thank you and to thank the cast. We are going to ask a lot of your fan favorite questions. So don't worry, they will get answered. And we are going to start with the gorgeous and talented Ms. Charlotte Stewart, especially because you were in episode 6 of Livin' on a Prairie. Woo! As the tatted up, black eye-lined bartendress of my dreams. And I know you came and did after the show, after the premiere episode with Alison in week 1, and we were saving the big reveal for this week. And I know that many of your fans were very upset with your look. Because they actually thought you had gotten tattooed and turned to the dark side. So I want to tell everyone, here's Charlotte. She has not turned to the dark side. But thank you so much for being in the episode. You were just amazing.
Well, I had so much fun. I couldn't believe it when, after I got made up and we were ready to shoot, I came out of what we were using as the makeup room, which was, I think, a closet, and there was no mirror or anything in there.
Yeah.
So I was with the makeup person, and I had no idea what I looked like, but I just kind of assumed, you just trust. And I walked out into the bar, and I saw myself in the mirror in the bar, and I almost had a heart attack.
You look hot, though.
What?
You look,
but it was so much fun. And the way you wrote it, the way you wrote the scene that I was in was so poignant and sweet. And you brought in all the characters of Miss Beadle, but it was not Miss Beadle. It was the actress who played Miss Beadle, who had gone on to another world. And it was just so funny. I played it for my husband last night. It was like,
have you not seen it yet?
No.
Did you like your look?
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. It was so dark. And
that last laugh of yours, is so great. I love that.
I loved it too. So we have a still of that too, of her just laughing in that scene, which is so great. And I have to say also, I emailed you last week because I found an article online, one of these like, what happened to Charlotte Stewart? And they had the before and the after. And they used the before picture, Charlotte, Miss Beadle, and the after picture was from Livin' on a Prairie. Don't believe everything you see on the internet.
I'm so glad you did that. I'm so glad, because it does refer back to how Miss Beadle was a small town teacher in a one-room school, and she just couldn't stand it anymore.
Right.
Hitched her wagon.
Hitched her wagon. I wanted to take and listen, if I get further opportunity to develop Livin' on a Prairie, which I would really love to do, I would love all of you to be a part of it at some point, because what I really want to do is take these actors and these characters that we've known our entire lifetimes and really flip them upside down, because the fact is you're all real people. You are not your characters. And I don't know. That's what I like to see. Thank God. Yeah, Nellie.
Me too, right?
Okay, so Charlotte, I'm going to start with you. I have one fan question that a lot of them actually asked, and I also want to preface this with saying, viewers, if you would like to know about Charlotte's life, Jim Morrison, and behind the scenes of Little House on the Prairie, buy her book. It is all there in its glory. And
I was
a
wild child.
She was a wild child. No, really, the book is amazing. And I also seriously suggest the audiobook version of it, because Charlotte reads it and it feels like she's reading it right to you, and it's awesome. Anyway, I'm not gonna answer any questions about Jim Morrison, because there were some emails that came in about that. What I am gonna ask you is one fan question, which said, why did you never say goodbye to Laura in the show? And maybe you can explain what was going on in the series or behind the scenes, why Miss Beadle sort of left.
Well, that was a very sad day for me.
Yeah,
day.
you write about this in your
And
book too.
I didn't know why Laura wasn't in the scene. It was just that Mary had come back and was in the general store my last day that my husband and I, the pig farmer, were going to be leaving Walnut Grove. And for me to take off my brooch and give it to Mary, because she's now a teacher of the blind. And it was, I don't know, Michael wrote it, I believe, and it was a very sweet parting. And it just, it was a hard day. It was a very hard day. However, I knew well in advance that I would only have 4 years because that was my contract. So, you know, unless like Nellie, when they brought her back, 3 years later.
Yeah, and sadly, there's nothing you can do if a writer has written your script for you. I don't know how much.
And you've
say
signed
you
a
have in it.
contract, you know.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I just have so many wonderful memories of being on the show. And, you know, most every scene I was in was with the children.
Right.
You know, and I cherish the pictures from the show, you know, especially, and I make tote bags out of the picture of Laura learning to read. And it's so sweet. You know, I just love that Dickie Bird book. And I've had a lot of requests for that. And I also have a theory why the fans liked Miss Beadle. It's because Laura loved her. Laura, if you look at scenes with Laura and Miss Beadle, she's just giving so much love to me. And that made a big difference, I think.
Yeah, but you were so lovable. I mean, it wouldn't have worked with another actor who wasn't as lovable as Charlotte Stewart is. I mean, you just had that thing that
Thank you.
We all wanted you to be our teacher. So Charlotte, we have 3 of the most common questions that viewers emailed in. And so I will ask you now. The first one is, what is your favorite episode? What is your favorite memory? And did you keep any memorabilia from the show?
Oh gosh, my favorite memory, my favorite episode basically was, of course, Here Comes the Brides, when Miss Beadle elopes with the pig farmer, Adam, and Nellie elopes with his son. And we have it's a farce. It's a farcical show. I mean, it's all crazy and all wacky, and Alison is fabulous in it, and Josh was good, and Mrs. Olsen. So that was my favorite episode. It was just so much fun to do. And also,
but you didn't enjoy killing the kids in the blizzard? That wasn't as fun?
Yeah, aside from letting Carrie fall down the well, which Michael calls Miss Beadle kills the kids again. I just watched that episode recently, the blizzard, and I was surprised at how fast everything happened. You know, when she decided to send the kids home, and then all the parents showed up, and the look on my face was so horrible that it just broke my heart that she felt she'd done that. But that was one of that was a really good episode. Everybody pulled together.
Good. So that was do you have a favorite memory, on or off screen?
Oh gosh, I just I think my audition was my favorite memory because I did things that I later just said, why did I do that?
Don't
but
we all?
I you know, in those days, I had already done 30 television shows before I got a call to do Little House on the Prairie. And I didn't even know what Little House on the Prairie was. I had never heard of the books. I didn't read them. And so I got called in for the interview. Now, one thing I have to tell you about Michael Landon is no matter how many people are in a room, all you can see is Mike. I mean, he had that projection ability, and he didn't even have to try. I mean, he was just Michael Landon.
Did you take anything? Do you have any memorabilia from the set?
You know, I wore my own boots, and so I, of course, took those home, and I wore my own glasses, the gold rim. Yeah,
right.
but I lost them. I don't know what happened to them.
Oh no!
Love to have them again.
Let's move on to Rodimus Pera. Hello,
Hello.
Rodimus.
Hello.
Who is coming to us from France.
Yes, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Bonjour.
I want to introduce you by saying Rodimus started his career when he was 7 years old, and he was already a seasoned actor before he stepped foot onto the Little House on the Prairie. And if you don't know, you do not realize that Rodimus was young Grasshopper in the Kung Fu series, another classic series.
Amazing.
Young Grasshopper, you know, Patience Young Grasshopper, we all know that term. It's become really an American classic.
It's a meme,
A meme, totally. And I know I've said it before and I didn't even realize what it was from.
Right.
That's how ingrained it is in our culture. But here you are, young Grasshopper. I think that's just the coolest thing ever.
Thanks. It is pretty amazing. I mean, it's an amazing mantle to wear. And actually, I'm the last surviving member of that show. So you're actually, at the same time that we're doing this, you're actually watching a Kung Fu cast reunion also. It's just one. We're all here.
Oh my God.
That is so grim.
From
both
series, from both the original series and The Legend Continues. All the actors from that show are gone too. So I'm the last man standing.
Well, there's the blessing of being a child on a series. You are here. You are here to represent. So I want to know, Rodimus, your audition. Now, you were already known from Kung Fu, so did they ask you to just come on to the show, or did you have to audition for Little House?
I had to audition, but I actually was able to come in directly to, that's my daughter in the background. I don't know if you can hear that little whee. That's okay. I
like those. I like those sounds.
Good. Just so people don't wonder what it is. It's not a banshee. It's my daughter. So because of the fact that I had just come off of Kung Fu and stuff, and I was, working kid actor at the time, I got to just go straight in to see Michael. I didn't have to go through the original, earlier casting process. So that was nice. It was, kind of a nice thing when you get to meet the director on your first interview. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And the producer. So yeah, I remember it feeling very comfortable, really nice. Michael was really nice with me, and he just chatted with me a little bit. And I think I read a scene, and I kind of got the sense that I nailed it, and that the way they were so nice to me, it was like, oh wow, maybe I got the role. Oh my gosh, And then later the same day, I found out that I had. So
wow.
It was a pretty neat day, and that would, and I really, really wanted this role because it was the first sort of wholesome, non-messed up or non-oddball kind of character that I did as a teen. I had been so many things before that. Kung Fu was shaved head and all that stuff, and always, a kid who's dying or blind or whatever. And so this was like an all-American young man, and so I was really happy that I could do that.
Yeah, it's interesting because all the parts that you would get cast in, the even in Little House, they seem to all have a fragility or a gentleness or a vulnerability to them, which is pretty cool for a child actor. They don't usually get those kind of parts, or I don't know how many parts are actually written for children that are like that.
Not too many.
Yeah, right. So
by the way, I know that you have a whole agenda here, and I'm just going to throw a wrench in it for you right now. I just want to say, I so love your show. I think it's so beautifully done. I think it's the writing, the same elements that you appreciate about our show, we appreciate about your show, because there's a lot of sensitivity, a lot of just beauty and just loveliness, truth coming out of you and the other performers. Your casting was excellent. Just the whole thing is a gentle, sweet, funny, poignant thing, and that's why we're all here, because we support good art, and you made some good art, Pamela.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ditto.
Thank you. That means a lot. That really does mean a lot. Thank you so much. Okay, not gonna cry. Here we go. Pull it together.
Go ahead. That's like, okay. I
We'll
was
save
going
the
to cry
crying after
earlier.
the show.
I was going to cry earlier when I was hearing Charlotte talking. I was like, I started getting a little verklempt at that point myself.
So I know there's a behind the scenes story to this. So fans really do want to know what happened. Mr. Edwards and his family suddenly disappear in season 4 without any explanation.
Right.
So what happened, and how did you find out that you were dead?
Okay. So there's two things that were happening simultaneously. One is the chemistry between Melissa Sue Anderson and myself. While on screen, we did our best as professionals to make that work. The reality was we weren't really hitting it off in person. And she, I think, just had a hard time at that point in her life. We were 2 years apart. I was 15 when I first got on the show. She was 13. And I think that she just wasn't ready to have a love relationship thrust on her as a young actress. Her mom was very conservative, and she was very shy person, really. And all of a sudden she has to like this stranger, who comes on her show. And I just think she just had a hard time with it. So I know that other people have said that, they had some issues with her too, but I thought it was just us not getting along. So anyway, that's one thing that was going on. The second thing was, Victor French, who played Isaiah Edwards, my stepfather, went and did a pilot for another series called Carter Country, right in the middle of working on Little House. And that's because he was never given a series contract. He had a day play, not a day player, but a episode to episode contract. He did not have a series contract. So he felt like, well, okay, if I'm not being given a contract to be on a show, I can do whatever I want with my career. And he went and did this pilot. Yeah. And Michael, he didn't ask Michael. And that's the thing that Michael got the most upset about, was that, he didn't come to Michael and say, may I please go and do this other pilot. So that created a 3-year-long falling out between the two men. And at that time, and so Michael decided to write the family out of the show, but he had this dangling character. I was supposed to, I think, it seems like I was supposed to come back to Walnut Grove and be with Mary.
Right.
There was no reason why I shouldn't have, except for this thing that happened. And I think he just wanted to find another guy for his oldest daughter. So so they wrote a whole episode where they come to see me in Chicago, and there's a big cotillion. It was the most expensive episode they had ever filmed at that point. They used the Hello Dolly sets at
oh my gosh,
20th Century Fox, and they dressed them completely with horses and carriages and all these costumes. So it was a big piece. And there was, of course, a cotillion with about 100, well, it seemed like 100 dancers there. It was quite amazing. So everybody had to rehearse and train and get fitted for their clothes. So only to find out that, yes, he's been writing letters back home, continuing the relationship with Mary, but this society girl has got me wrapped around her little finger, and I'm actually two-timing the star of the show. And so that's how they tried.
I know.
And there's one scene where we're having dinner and in Chicago, and Michael throws out this line. This is the line that sends the Edwards family to the cornfield. And that is, so, John, are you going to be coming back to Walnut Grove, or are you going to go visit your family out in California? And with that, the Edwards family suddenly existed in the cornfield of California. So, yeah, that's how it happened. And, that was, when Charlotte was talking about her last day, I remember my last day there. And then, to answer the last part of your question, 3 years later, when I came back from New York, and I had been studying with Stella Adler for 3 years, and I came back to LA, I found out that Victor French is back on the show. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Well, let me go visit the set, and I'll be back on the show. I'm top of my game now, highly trained New York actor. Boom, continue my career. Well, yes, I showed up on the set. They were shooting at Universal at the time, and I said, hi, hi everybody. Oh, there's Rodimus. Oh, hey, Michael, it's Rodimus. Michael goes, oh, hey, Rodimus, that's so funny. You should show up today. This is the day we just filmed Finding Your Dead Body. And I was like, oh, and they're all laughing, and I'm like, ha 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 ha.
Oh no.
Ha, 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 ha. I mean, that's the way Hollywood works. And I'm glad that, obviously Michael and Victor went on to do not just more of the series, but they went to do another series completely different, Highway to Heaven.
Right.
Together, so.
They obviously patched it up.
They did.
Another big fan question we had was, people just want to hear anything about Victor French, what he was like, what was he like to work with. Can you give us just a little taste of what Victor was like?
Sure. I mean,
we love Victor.
Yeah, everybody should chime in here because they all worked with him. He was a very warm actor. He gave a lot in his performances. I think that, I think he probably related more to the adults in the show. I think they got along in a different way. I never felt any kind of a personal reaching out to me when we were on the set and rehearsing everything. He was 100% there in the role, and me too. And we had that great episode, His Father's Son, where it's all about the relationship between us, and that was wonderful working with him. But when the shooting stopped, there was nothing after that. There was very little. He didn't make any entrees to try to spend time with me or nor I with him. It was just a professional thing, and he was very good at what he did. Big guy. I sensed that he had a lot of things going on inside. He seemed like when the camera was off of him, there was a lot going on. And
Charlotte's nodding her head at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had his heart broken.
Oh.
We became very close. We were very good friends.
Oh, Victor. Well, his work was just so gorgeous.
I watched the second part 2 of Remember Me the other day when Victor decides to keep the 3 kids, myself and my brother and sister, and propose to Grace, and that scene where he's standing there watching this family about to go in separate directions, and what's going on in his eyes, and of course Michael comes right in close to him at that point. That is just hard. You can't be human and not cry when you watch that man's performance. He had it all. It was all there in his eyes. It was just brilliant.
I actually always thought the character of Mr. Edwards was a very tragic character also, because underneath all that comedy, there was a lot of really hardcore stuff going on. So here are the 3 most asked fan questions. Your favorite episode, your favorite memory, and do you have anything maybe you took?
Probably His Father's Son, because it focused so much on I really had a chance to do some good acting in that. I mean, all the episodes did some good acting, but that was a really great thing that he wrote that episode. And Michael, I'm talking about Michael, he directed that, he wrote it, he spent a lot of time getting the best out of me for that, so I'm very grateful to him for that. So that was probably a pinnacle for me on the show. I don't have any it's like when you're especially when you're a kid, and I think the other younger Alison will be able to attest to this, when you're on a show as a young performer, you don't assume anything. You don't think, oh, I can take this thing, my wardrobe. No, you make sure you leave all your wardrobe in the trailer. You mind your P's and Q's on a set as a kid. So I didn't even presume to be able to take anything. I do have, actually, I still have the Swiss Army knife that the assistant director, who sort of realized that I was a fatherless young man, he actually gave me a really nice Swiss Army knife one day, and I still have that. So that's not from the actual on-camera show, but it's from the time that I worked there, and so I have that. That's a cherished possession. Okay, thank you.
I'll accept that as an answer. Rodimus, thank you so much. Let's talk now. Let's talk with you, Miss Hersha Parody.
Oh, yay.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm so thrilled you're here. Let me talk a little bit about you. Hersha, you are known as the beloved Alice Garvey, who after 4 seasons was known for one of the most unforgettable and traumatizing TV deaths of all time. You have had an incredible career starting in theater, film, TV, and you've continued to work since A Little House on the Prairie. But here's what I want to know. I read this story online, and I thought, this can't possibly be true. So the story is,
Are you going to ask?
When you were living in California, and you used to look after this dog that roamed Hollywood, and that's somehow how you met Catherine Scotty McGregor, and that eventually led to you landing Little House on the Prairie. What is that story?
It's a wonderful story, and it starts in the theater. I had been just doing a lot of theater and a lot of plays, and I had a mutt, a very young mutt, who was coming into her first season, and I was doing getting home late at night, sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I would take her out for a walk, and there was this scroungy looking dog that sniffed her out at her time and kept coming over and bugging me. And once at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was actually driving in my bug, and I had to put my dog Christmas, in the car and take her away because Lightning, the other dog, who was a stray, as far as I knew, kept going after her. So I put her in the car. She was sitting next to me, and Lightning actually jumped through my window, my driving window, to get to it. Well, that was it. So I started taking care of Lightning. Found out eventually, because of the collar that had a vet's name, who the dog supposedly belonged to. That was Catherine McGregor. So I got together with her and said, we got a problem. I don't know what to do with this dog. Ultimately, I found out that the dog really belonged to Seymour Cassell, who was a wonderful, wonderful actor, John Cassavetes' gang, who just passed away this last year. And I met him. The last 3 years of Lightning's life, he stayed with me. So I got to know Catherine because of this dog. Catherine played Mrs. Olson, as you know, she was a very what can I say?
Compassionate.
Well, she loved her animals. She loved her dogs. She had more dogs, but she because she was on Little House, she knew Dick Bull, obviously, who was a very good friend of mine from the theater. Make a long story short, I'm just going on. And Dick came to see me in the play and brought Scotty play Quiet Players, where I played Anne Hathaway, Shakespeare's wife. They saw me and they said, oh my God, she'd be great for Little House. But actors know, you do not tell casting people or agents or whatever about how wonderful you think your friends are. So they actually got together at lunch with the casting director and said, oh God, we saw this actress last night, blah, 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 you ought to bring. So they did. Sue Suchman and the casting director brought me in for the first role that I played on Little House. And so it was Lightning, this wonderful, wonderful mutt. Everybody knew him in West Hollywood. Very, very special mutt.
That dog was obviously being led by some sort of higher force to bring you guys all together. That is a wild story. I love stories like that.
Yeah, it's a good story.
So you were brought in not for Alice Garvey at first.
No.
You were in a different season playing, was it someone's sister?
Michael Landon's sister-in-law.
And then when they created the part of Alice Garvey, did they remember you and want you to come back?
Yes.
Or did you have to re-audition? They remembered you. That's incredible.
No, they remembered me. They didn't give it. I went in on audition for it. But I went like Rodimus said, they already knew me, and I loved doing the first part, which was fantastic because it was on location. In fact, I wanted to add about Victor. I didn't know him as well as Charlotte, but Victor French was also in the theater a lot and did a lot of theater, and I knew him because of the theater. I didn't really know him, just vaguely. But when we were shooting the first episode that I did, when I was playing his sister-in-law, we were up in the mountains in Northern California. And when you said a memory on or offset after we were shooting that day, I never got to work with Victor because he left the season that I came on. We just took a trip up to the mountains and it was dark, and we both laid on top of the mountain, and we looked up at the stars and shooting stars. And that was the first and last time I've ever seen shooting stars, was lying next to this incredibly fine actor and lovely, lovely, lovely man. That was one of my fondest memories of being on Little House. Anyway, I'll stop there.
I will accept that answer. That's a great, great memory. That's beautiful. I'm so happy you guys are talking about Victor French. A lot of people emailed asking about him.
He was very
it was
special.
Such a loss. Both Michael and he left so soon. Now, okay, here's the other question. Why did they kill Alice? And did you know it was going to happen?
I knew because Michael called me in his office, and it was, and I can remember like it was yesterday. I remember him sitting behind his desk and talking to me, and both of us almost breaking down into tears. But they wanted, Merlin was under a contract with NBC Sports, and they wanted him to have his own series, and there wasn't room for me. So they killed me off, and Merlin went off to do Father Murphy. And
you know, Michael Landon had a knack for the shock value. That is for sure. Because
got a lot of letters about that.
Holy moly! Were people? I mean, I assume people are still upset about that. How you died, the visual of it.
They're upset about the fact that Alice went the way she did. And with the baby.
With the baby.
And the, I have my baby over. I have my baby over here.
I have to tell everyone.
We'll do that later. I have the baby over here. I have my
I love that you joke about it so much. When we first corresponded, when I was reaching out to everyone to say like, hey, would you come and do this reunion? And you immediately responded with a picture of Alice holding the baby with the flames, saying the baby and I'll be there. So
that's fun.
Gotta own it. Gotta claim it. So what's your favorite episode?
I think I have to say my favorite episode was the one that I was told was written for me, which was The High Cost of Being Right. And only because there's certain things in it that I didn't like. I hated the end, hated the courtroom scene. But that's just me. But it was heaven for me to be shooting outside in the hills and acting up a storm. I mean, I'll never forget standing on the hill outside above, asking again, Merlin, can I please go to work? Is this your answer? Are you going to allow me to work, or I'm leaving? I'm gone. I mean, it was beautiful. I really loved doing that. I mean, I've often said as an actress, not often, actually just in the last few years, I realized that in my career professionally since I was 18, there's probably been maximum 5 minutes where I was good, where I was really good.
Oh, that's not true.
Well, in my opinion, and I'm sure it's true. If that, and with all, but one of the minutes,
you're in shock. What? You're brilliant. What are you talking about?
Nah,
we are not accepting this as an answer.
True. We're not a minute here, a minute there, and a minute there. And one of those minutes was on Little House up in the hills, and they have a close-up of me, realizing that we're going to get divorced. I'm going to leave this man. The other minute on Little House that I really loved was when I found out that my son was cheating when I was the teacher, when they made me the teacher. That was a nice, just zoom in. I said, well, that wasn't bad. But otherwise,
No, I get that. When people are like, you were great, and inside, like,
yeah,
that could have been better. It's that self-judge
By the way,
thing.
and I will also say ditto. You are so good, and the show is so good, so beautifully produced, photographed, casting, really nice. Anyway, okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I agree. I think it's awesome. I'm very proud of it.
That's the reason why some of us, if not all of us, are doing this, because of respect to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And with that, let us talk with Mr. Dan McBride, the chicken throw heard around the world. Now, I have to say, Dan, I think it's hilarious that this particular thing that happened on the show with you has taken on an entire world of its own. But I have to be honest with you, a couple people emailed in saying, where was the chicken? I think people aren't sure which, there are things thrown at Nellie. Which one was the chicken? Just to set the record straight, there were plates thrown at Nellie. Was there a loaf of bread thrown at Nellie? Just to set the record straight, which one was the chicken?
You'd have to ask Alison. I don't remember I remember she did so many scenes where she was hitting me, throwing things at me, things like that. Maybe Alison knows.
Alison, do you remember which one it was?
You know, I've been trying to think about. I'm gonna have to like look this up because it's like, yeah, which episode was it? So it's somewhere in there. It's pre-Percival, so it's like not season 2.
Oh, it's pre-Percival.
Yeah. I'm still awful. I have the restaurant show. It's after the episode Back to School. I've been given the restaurant hotel.
Yes.
And it's establishing that I cannot cook or deal with the public, and that I'm in. He wants chicken. And he's been complaining, and I come to the table and I take the lid off, and it is a raw chicken, and he says it's raw, and I said, and I'm looking to beat him about the face and shoulders with the large dead raw chicken.
I did 2 or maybe 3 episodes of Highway to Heaven, and then out of the blue I get a nice offer to become a college professor. So as a result, I took the job. I never came back to acting, and probably 30 years later, I'm on Facebook. And at that time, they used to pop up every now and then on the side. Do you know this person? Whatever. And one day, Alison's picture popped up, and we hadn't been in contact since Little House stopped shooting, I guess. Anyway, so I just sent her a quick, I think a 2-sentence message saying, "Hi, Alison. You probably don't remember me, but we worked together on Little House." That's when she wrote back and said, "What did you say, Alison?"
I said, I never forget a man that I hit in the face with a chicken.
So that's how, and I didn't realize that they'd been all together all these years doing appearances and things like that. I never do that. Walked away from Hollywood and all that stuff. Anyway, but to get back to your question about the chicken, there's something I never told Alison. Something I never told Michael Landon. Something I never told my doctor that happened with that scene. Well, there's 2 things happened with that particular scene. One was we were rehearsing in rehearsal, and Michael had told Alison in rehearsal, don't actually hit Dan with the chicken, just fake it for the moment. Well, no one tells Nellie what to do. So in rehearsal, she goes right up and smacks me right upside the head with it. I hear the other cast and crew go, "Oh." Because they had just heard Michael say, "Don't hit him" in rehearsal. When we did the actual shot, I fall out of the chair, and the chair had arms, right? I fall out of the chair, hit my ribs on the arms, and I've got to go to the doctor because I can barely breathe.
Alison.
He's the doctor. I didn't tell him what happened, but I'm all taped up, all in my chest, my ribs are all taped up. That's about the only way I could breathe. But I never told Alison about that until just now. She never
No.
told me.
Wait, what did you go to the doctor? Well, how did you hurt your ribs? Well, a 17-year-old girl hit me in the face.
Yeah, with a raw
so
chicken.
hard she knocked me out of my chair. I'm sorry.
I also want to say how very appropriate it is that he broke a rib, because that's so Little House on the Prairie.
Now wait, this is a workman's this is workers' comp. You could have filed a workman's comp suit. You were injured on the
You were supposed to break a leg.
Got a rib.
You know what it was? I throwing Catherine McGregor under the proverbial bus. We were at the scene with Catherine, And Catherine was supposed to pull her punches, like when she would, shake my shoulders. It's she'd dig her nails in and she'd throttle me. And when we did the scene where I was to be beaten with a jacket after the cheating thing, and originally the wardrobe lady said, "No, you fold it like this, and see all the buttons, they're on the inside, so you won't hit her with any buttons." And you just kind of, Catherine goes, and the whole thing unrolls, and she just whips me, metal buttons and all, like, what? And so I was so used to doing these scenes with Catherine where we never pulled punches. She would just haul, like, just hit me. And then I was like, okay, chicken, right, whap.
Well, now I understand why the chicken throw is so popular, because it was very real.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, please do.
We were all in, I believe it was Minnesota, doing a big fan event where they put on the big pageants every year of Little House on the Prairie. Beautiful show. They had the whole cast. I mean, everybody was there. And we were all up on stage, and there must have been 2,000 people in the audience. And the moderator was asking us all specific questions, and he was saying something to Alison, when suddenly Dan McBride jumps up from the audience in full costume and starts running toward the stage, yelling at Nellie, yelling and yelling. And she reaches down and grabs a chicken and starts flailing at him and chases him all around the stage.
It's like a good old vaudeville act.
That was so funny. It was completely out of the blue.
Allison, I want to talk to you for a minute, because we also had an incredible interview, a couple interviews after the show. But one thing I have not asked you yet, which is about Steve Tracy, our beloved Steve Tracy Percival. And I was wondering, did you get to audition with him? Was there a chemistry test with you guys, or was he hired and he showed up and you were like, here's my husband, got it?
Yeah. Okay. This was crazy. So when you get married on TV, especially if you're a young girl, it's like being in a small village where you are being married off. You have no say, you don't get to meet him. So Melissa and I are literally sitting there, and we've been told, I just found out that I'm going to get married, but we have no idea to who. But I know it's a comedy. That's like all I know. So being in Hollywood, I said, oh, comedy, they're going to get an ugly guy, because that's what they do. I'm like, I'm doomed. So Melissa and I are sitting there, and each man we know he's supposed to be short. So every short guy, we're at MGM, who happens to come onto the set, like for a meeting or something, we're like, is it him? Is it him? Is it him? Maybe it's him. It's him. No, maybe it's not him. Oh, I don't like him. No, it's not him. Finally, this adorable man, this cute boy, I mean, he was older than me, but he was so cute. And he has freckles and curly hair and sparkly eyes. And we're like, and it was Steve Tracy. And
I love that.
And then we meet him, and Melissa and I grilled him. We're like, so like, what bands do you like? And what's your favorite movie? And what do you put on your pizza? And just like grilled him, and he's like,
was this before his audition? This was before his audition?
No, he'd been hired.
Oh, he'd been hired already. I was like, damn, you did this before you even auditioned.
It was like, doom.
Okay.
And he smoked, but he said, no, I have Banaka in my breath mints in my pocket. I will spray my breath before any kissing scenes. I won't eat onions or garlic. And he's very conscientious. And he liked the right movies and bands, so we accepted him. And then we hit it off right away. He was very funny. He was very sweet. He was very big trained actor, a lot of improv training, a lot of stuff. So we started hitting it off. So Steve Tracy, when he proposes and I say yes, and the lip lock, and Mrs. Olsen's flipping out of the window, and we're smooching away. I love this because, first of all, he was adorable, and we had chemistry right away. We hit it off. Yeah. He was an person, we liked it. And so I felt completely safe with him. I didn't have any problem with that. And we started kissing, and we thought it was terribly funny that the goofy comedy couple, this girl who'd been so terrible and is now Taming of the Shrew kind of thing, and the goofy, Jewish kid with the glasses, that they would be like passionate lovers and do this kiss. We thought, okay, this is hilarious. So we just went with it. We're like, all over. And then Melissa Gilbert like freaks out. Because maybe she's like 2 years younger than me. Yeah, and she was I have to kiss El Manzo, I have to kiss Dean Butler, and he's like 100 years old. And like, really, I didn't think she'd been on a date yet. I mean, I was like, what, 17 or something. So here I am. So I remember she was like, oh, kissing. And I'm like, I like kissing boys. What? And she was like, you kiss like a fish. And she was horrified. She was like, ew, gross, ew, mush. So of course this made Steve and I like worse. We're like, really? Wait, what's this? And like, how far can we go before they like stop us and say this is a family show?
I love how you guys go for it. And my favorite part is after what you get married, they're throwing the rice, you go into the carriage and he says, to the honeymoon. And the expression you make is comic gold, because they're about to have a really good time.
See, I'm so happy. I am so happy you noticed it, because it was just crazy.
Every time it's my favorite moment. Here we go, you guys. We have a little quiz that's going to happen now. Bum, bum, bum. To test, well, your opinions, I suppose. They're opinion questions. But first, no, that's not true. I lied. Lauren, edit that part out. Before we get to the quiz, we're going to get to our... Damn it, it was going so well. And now it is time. Our fan question winner.
Hi, I'm Anne Maria. I'm in New York City, and I grew up watching Little House on the Prairie every day after school from 5 to 6 on WPIX 11 Alive. And for me, that was such an emotional time. And I cried so much watching that show, and I really needed that. I needed to really own my emotions and express them, and the show gave me that. What it also gave me was a sea of images burned on my brain that break my heart. And when you blew up the town at the end, for example. But did you have any moments like that that really tore you apart when you were filming? And if so, how did you support one another? Because I know that you did. And if you would also, anyone would also like to share, to balance that out, a moment of comedy that you could let us in on that happened off screen that we weren't privy to, we would love that too. Thank you.
So his father's son. It's a scene where I'm supposed to be full of emotion. We're shooting out on location. When you're on location, you can kind of see the dollar signs going, the little ticker going, because it's like on location. And I was supposed to deliver the goods, and I could not fully bring it out. Well, Michael, directing this episode, said, "Okay, everybody, just take 5." And he put his arm around me, and we walked down a road like 150, 200 yards away from the crew and the set and the whole thing. And he told me a story about a family that he knows that had a young man who was dying of cancer. And the way he told the story, he started welling up with tears. And he, of course, I knew what he was doing, and he knew what he was doing, but I was with him, and he was getting me into the emotional truth of that moment. So he basically wanted to trigger real tears for me, and I was with him in the process, and we did. And so when I finally got to that place and listening to him, he was crying and I was crying. He goes, "Okay, you ready to shoot the scene?" I said, "Yeah, let's go." So they said, "Okay." We walked back, and he said, "Okay, roll camera," and we shot the scene. And this is why everybody loved him, because he took the trouble to get the best out of everybody.
I also want to tell you, Hersha, that in her original email, one of the memories burned in her brain was Alice Garmy.
Yeah. I was just going to talk about that, but
yeah, please.
Because I never had her first comment. I didn't realize that. I remember really feeling on the set a deepness and a sadness and a closeness when we all got sick, and when Ketty sang. that was very, very moving for me. I remember that greatly. But the fun things that I've spoke, one of them, of course, is the battering ram with the baby in the fire.
Yeah.
That happened because I had a reputation as being very strong. I was a strong prairie woman. I didn't eat daintily. I ate. Michael would say, "Oh my God, Hersha, you know, what do you do?" When we sat down at the dinner table, I would eat like this. And when I went to pump water, this is one of the things I did. Every time I touched a prop, I'd bust it. I'd pumping the water, and it would go flying. And that's what happened with the baby scene. When I hit things. Well, they didn't make it up right. They didn't set it up right, and I couldn't bust it, so I kept trying harder and harder. Anyway, so that's the fun things that I remember. We had a lot of laughs about Alice being a bit, not like Miss Beadle,
Oh my gosh! So the window was supposed to break easier, which is why you kept hitting it harder.
Well, it couldn't be a breakaway, because if it had been, I would have busted through it. So
Right.
it had to be strong.
Yeah. Well, it was so impactful, and I would assume if you were in a burning building, that's how strongly you would try to break through a window. Oh, that's horrifying.
That, Mary's baby in my hand, so,
oh dear.
It looked like I was using her instead of just my elbow. But
I always thought you were using your elbow. It's just,
and otherwise, I would have taken the child by its feet and used its head.
Right.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Who was worse, Nellie or Nancy? Dun, dun, dun. Scandalous question.
I'll skip over that one because I have no opines on that.
Okay. Allison?
Well, I was more scheming, conniving, for Royal Highness, whereas the fabulous, brilliant Alison Balson, who got the role of Nancy, and when we met, we discussed this. She said, "Oh, I grew up watching you. I don't want to copy you exactly and do the same thing." So she said, you kind of went for bitchy. I'm going for crazy. And I was like, and nailing it.
Right.
She'd really
absolutely.
She was 11 years old, but she'd really studied. She went, okay. She broke it down. Went, okay, I'm going to this. She knew exactly what she was doing. She went for the bad seed, kind of red apart, woo, cuckoo, kill people kind of thing. And I was like, lovely choice.
Right.
So I thought we complimented each other. Now, of course, she got my wig. She got to wear my wig, so I have nothing to do with my wig. And I had the poofy hair. But it's weird because some of the fans are so into it. They're like, no, Nancy is evil and we like Nellie. It's like Highlander. There can be only one. And I'm like, no, guys, you can love both Nancy and Nellie. It's perfectly okay. We compliment each other. It's just my baby sister.
I agree. And my theory, yes, Dan, before my theory, yes.
Well, in my opinion, the original is always the best.
Ooh, we have a Nellie.
And I can say that firsthand, too.
Controversy right here, ladies and gentlemen. I see it. All right. I'll move on to the next question then. This is going to be a visual for you guys. So Lauren will bring up the picture. These are stills from 2 different episodes, and I want you to tell me what is wrong with this picture. Explain it to me.
Somebody's wearing nail polish.
And French
acrylics, baby, acrylics. Those are acrylic French nails. Acrylic French nails.
Little manicurist on the prairie.
Well, yeah. Also, both the shots I think are later in the run, aren't they not?
Yes.
Yes.
The one on the right,
later.
Melissa certainly is.
Yes, Melissa's is season 8 or season 9.
If you guys had the same people working on the show or not. That's just a thought.
That is a thought. I think it's hilarious. I'm not mad at it. I'm just so
Such a-
it tickles me.
Such a girl thing.
We got a little slack because in the first year or two, do you remember the wardrobe people and the prop people they had the Sears catalog from the 1800s, and they go, well, now we made sure that, and we got the McGuffey readers, and they look just like the one. Yeah, well, by year 7, 8, they're like,
Yeah. Here's another controversial question. Who had it worse, Mary or Albert? I'll give you examples. Mary, scarlet fever, kicked by a horse, sets the barn on fire, boyfriend cheats on her and dumps her, goes blind, another boyfriend dumps her, wanders through a sandstorm with her French tip, loses the baby in the fire, in a tragic wagon accident, burglars hold her hostage at the blind school, her husband regains sight and not her, and not to mention she got a terrible haircut towards the end of the movie. That's Mary. Here we go. Albert, an orphan living under the staircase, accidentally sets the blind school on fire, kills Mary's baby and Alice, hello, girlfriend is serial raped by a man in a clown mask, becomes addicted to morphine, pukes all over himself, gets a rare blood disease, bleeds out of his nose profusely, climbs up a mountain, and most likely dies. Who had it worse? Who had it worse? This is what the people need to know.
They'll have to decide for themselves.
That I will accept as an answer.
It's hard to say. I mean, on the one hand, Albert, a lot of trouble, but he was at least, when he was running the streets free as an orphan, he was having adventures. Some of his terrible things had happened to him because he was out doing stuff, whereas Mary, just fate was falling on her head. On the other hand, she got to be married to the really nice guy, and Albert never found true happiness, the only woman he ever loved.
I know. It's a close call, those two. Dear Lord, they had it rough on that prairie, man. As Pamela says in episode 4, there was some serious shit that happened on that prairie. We're going to end this with another visual for you guys, but first I'll ask, this is a Livin on a Prairie question. And it's a little fun fact. Whose picture do you think was in the background of every single episode of Livin on a Prairie? Whether you saw it or not, you probably didn't even see it. Whose
Michael
picture?
Landon?
That would be my guess too. Michael Landon, yeah, right.
Bingo, baby. You want to see? There's more than Michael Landon too, but I'll show you right here. Bam!
I didn't even know it was there. I didn't know it was there. That's great.
Wow,
Michael
that's
Landon.
cool.
Next episode, bam! Matthew Laberto and Landon.
Oh, look at there in the background. Oh, wow.
Next one, bam! Michael Landon.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's not fair. That's not fair. That's too small.
There's one that you absolutely could not. Yeah, I don't expect you to know that that's what it is. Next episode, Michael Landon in
No
the coffee
way.
cup.
There he is, his hair.
That's the top
It's his
of
hair.
Crazy.
That's great.
Michael Landon.
So the Alfred Hitchcock of your show.
Next one. Bam! All of those crumpled bits of paper are crumpled Michael Landons.
That was when I made you cry. I brought up Michael Landon and made you
I was Michael Landon in that episode. And the last one, which you definitely wouldn't be able to spot, that is Michael Landon, Matthew Laberto, and Dean Butler, the trifecta.
Wow.
That's our little fun fact for Livin on a Prairie.
Very cool. Those are called Easter eggs.
Yes.
We should have put a tattoo of Michael on my arm.
We had, remember, on your finger, we totally should have. But remember, we had on your fingers tattooed LHOP or LH.
Right.
So they were on your fingers. We did have those subliminal messages every now and then. But I really wanted to show you guys that, because not only have you all inspired me and helped me in my lifetime. But this is just a culmination of something that has been so wonderful, and nothing but love, love, love. And you're all a part of that. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Thank you for including.
I will wrap this up. You guys, you've been such a joy and a pleasure. Thank you for your time and your commitment and your support and your amazing stories. And we will make sure to put up websites and books and swag. And don't forget to bid in the auction and donate to the Actors Fund. And
just have us. You should have us when you do your Emmy party. You should have us there. I think that would be like the fair thing to do.
That is a promise, my friend. That is a promise. Thank you, guys.
Hey. I love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Hi everyone, I want to talk to you for 1 minute about the Actors Fund. It's a national human services organization that fosters stability and resiliency and provides a safety net for performing arts and entertainment professionals. The fund serves everyone in film, theater, television, music, opera, radio, and dance with programs including social services and emergency financial assistance, healthcare, housing, and so much more. With shutdowns in all aspects of the entertainment industry, this emergency financial assistance is helping our most vulnerable and those in crisis. Since March 18th, 2020, the Actors Fund has provided more than $12.7 million in emergency financial assistance to 10,767 people who work in performing arts and entertainment. This is more than 6 times the amount normally distributed and more than 5 times the number of people who receive financial assistance in 1 year. So please go to CharityBuzz.com/ActorsFund for a live online auction of personalized autographed items donated by this reunion cast of Little House on the Prairie. Or you can donate directly at actorsfund.org/donate. Thanks, and on to the show.
Favorite cast members of Little House on the Prairie. Dean Butler is making me laugh. Okay, here we go. It's Wendi Lou Lee, Karen Grassley, Dean Butler, Pamela Roylance, Dave Friedman. Thank you guys so much for being here. What a thrill.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that they have donated some really amazing items on that you can bid on online for benefiting the Actors Fund. So if you go to CharityBuzz.com/ActorsFund, you can bid, or you can just donate to the Actors Fund. This button here on the website, or actorsfund.org/donate. And now I just also want to say thank you to all of the viewers who have written in. Your emails range from touching to hilarious to poignant to everything in between. I sincerely appreciate your support. I know the cast sincerely appreciates your support. And there were so many common ones that you all asked that I have narrowed down the best ofs, and we will be asking them. So who should we start with? I know, I want to start with Karen, because Karen, after your interview, which you did after episode 4, First Date, the response from your fans is so overwhelming. They love you. They cannot get enough Karen Grassley. They are chomping at the bits for you to be on social media. Just FYI, Twitter is waiting for you, and they're waiting for your memoir too. So just know you have an audience, a very loving audience that wants more Ma. All day, all night, all Ma. So the most commonly asked questions that came up were, what is your favorite episode? What is your favorite memory? And did you keep any memorabilia from the show? So we'll start there. And then I have a couple more questions for you.
My personal favorite, I think, is
Well, it's usually the pilot, but today it's Country Girls, because to me it just caught the spirit of what Ma is, what Ma portrays on the show in the spunky way that she acts with Mrs. Olson, and then the way she sacrifices her beautiful cloth so that her girls can't be insulted by little Nellie.
Yeah. It is a classic episode. It's so good. And so do you have a favorite memory, either on camera or off camera? Any memory?
One of my favorite memories is early in the pilot, when we were shooting the scene where Laura asks if the horses are boys or girls, and Ma goes, and Pa answers in a kind of ribald way, and Ma goes, Charles. And I think I was maybe late with the line or something like that. Either that or the little girl didn't like my timing. And Melissa Gilbert just piped up with my line, you know. This was the sort of thing that she could do, because she would just learn the entire script.
Sponge. That's great. And did you take any memorabilia from the show? Did you steal anything, Karen?
No, I didn't steal anything, but my hairstylist offered me my hair.
Wow, did you take it?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
good. You know, it's very useful if you then get cast in a Western or something. You have all that wonderful hair. So, yeah, it's so downstairs.
Cool. Oh my gosh. Well, that'll go for a lot if you ever auction off Ma's hair.
Creepy, huh?
Could you imagine? Don't auction off your hair. That's a terrible idea. Don't do it. I thought this was an interesting question, and it came after our conversation a couple weeks ago. We talked about a lot of feminist aspects of maybe what we wished could have been more in the show and what actually was. And so we had a question for you that someone asked, what storyline do you think Carolyn most showed feminist characteristics? No, I love that people are asking these questions.
Well, clearly it's in Olson versus Olson when she decamps from the little house and goes to the hotel to protest until the men sign the petition for women to have property rights. And she organizes the women in town, you know, she goes door to door with the petition, and a lot of people are scared, and eventually we all get together, and the men can't handle it at home, and they get
Yes, the men cannot handle it without those ladies at home. I hear you. And there's one question that Tara asked you, and that is, in the last farewell, did you, Michael, and Melissa get to talk alone and have one last family moment together? And also, did you see Michael again after the final farewell? You two had such great chemistry. I hope you remained friends.
No, we did not have any kind of special moment. I moved away not too long after the show ended, and I did see Melissa Gilbert in the interim. I did not see Michael, but after I had moved to New Mexico, I wrote to him because I wanted to let him know that the show had had such a profound effect on me, and that I wanted to know how he was and how the family was. And I was so glad I had done that, because it was a very short time afterward that he was diagnosed. You know, we just never know.
Wow. I think it's, people think that actors remain really close or see each other all the time after their show is done. And it very rarely happens. People go on with their lives. And if they're not going to set every single day and seeing each other, not all that often they actually get together, which is why moments like this is so nice. Yay. Okay, I have one more email for you. I have to ask it. It's kind of ridiculous, but I personally was intrigued by it. So here we go. This viewer says, I'm Japanese. So this is from Japan. And both my mother and I grew up watching Little House. My question is this, Karen. There is a 1983-1984 Japanese TV advert for a much-loved cookie that features you in a little house-ish dress and setting. And I would love to know how that came about. I want to also know, what is this cookie? Japanese.
I think they called it Mama's Cookies, and it was a chocolate chip cookie. And they came to Los Angeles, and the Japanese people are so gracious. They came to my home. They bowed. They brought presents.
Wow.
They treated me like royalty. And when we shot it, we went out to the Disney Ranch, and my husband's, I think only 2 of the kids came. It was fun because I had a big trailer and lots of snacks, and they could really have a good time. And I looked around, I said, well, what's going on? Because it seemed like there was a delay. And they had to delay because they were spraying the grass green. It wasn't quite green enough for the commercial. So we were waiting for the grass to dry.
Wow.
I thought, that perfectionism, that exactitude, of that culture. So what happened was they planned a very big launch for this cookie. And I was part of that launch. And just before the launch, there was a chocolate poisoning. And the cookie was pulled. Nothing happened. And I was quite disappointed. I didn't even know until just recently that the cookie had ever come out, or the commercial. So I guess I'm glad that it made it out.
Yeah, because they're asking about the cookie commercial in Japan right now. That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. Well, I just want to say again, thank you. Oh, I also want to mention, you have just come out on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, you have come out with a story time with Karen, and you're reading the book Teeny Tiny. And I have to tell you, it's so charming. It's so wonderful. I clicked on it thinking like, oh, let's check it out for a minute. And within 30 seconds, I was like, Ma's reading me a story. So listen, it's not just for kids. If you want some comfort, which we all do right now in this world,
Thank you, Pam. I thought it was something I could offer, by myself inside my house to people who were out there, struggling to entertain their kids or teach.
Yeah.
And it's, very low tech. And
it looks great.
I'm going to read another one next week.
Yes. You have me as an audience that's listening to your stories. No, really though, it gave me personally a lot of comfort. So I thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's talk with your daughter, Ms. Wendi Lou Lee. Hi. Thank you for being here. Of course, you and your twin sister played Baby Grace for 4 seasons in Little House on the Prairie. It's crazy. In those 4 seasons, you turned from a little thing to an actual person. That's bizarre to me. That we literally watched you grow into an actual person on that show. But I do have to say, you guys really had the it factor, man. You were the cutest babies ever, and the camera loved you. Whenever you were in a scene, we loved watching baby Grace. How was your audition? What scene
There wasn't really one. My mom tells a story that she had one of us on one hip and one of us on the other, and she walked in, and Michael Landon like basically made eye contact with my mom and said, "It's so nice to meet you." And then he looked down and he said, "Those are my girls." And that was it. Like, we walked out and my mom was like, "Is that really how it happens?" So yeah, no audition really, besides just meeting him. And I mean, we just needed to be the right age with blonde hair and blue eyes. So I think.
But your disposition seems so sweet. It's the disposition too. They can't have some crying, fussy babies going on there.
Well, there was some crying and fussiness going on. You remember?
True. So I guess the questions of what's your favorite memory, I don't know if you necessarily have one, or ones that you remember from other people telling you, like your mom telling you.
Well, I would say my favorite memory is when they were filming the Christmas episode, Christmas They Never Forgot, because I actually remember it. And I remember the snow falling, and we even collected a box of the snow that's kind of like tissue paper that's all cut up. And we have a box of that from the set, and we totally remember that. And we were fighting over who got to do what, even though we had no control over who got to do what. But I remember us arguing, "No, I want to lick the candy cane," and "No, I want to lick the candy cane." So that's probably my favorite memory, just because it was so real, and we couldn't believe that, like, the snow was not cold.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, because we were like, I don't understand, like, how is this snow? So that's probably my favorite memory.
Memorabilia you have too, then.
I have the snow, and then also we got to bring our little chairs home with our names on them.
Oh.
And also, I think the only other thing that we got was our stockings. A couple pair of those like cotton stockings. And that's it. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite episode? I know you're watching it now as an adult, and you said your kids really like it. So you obviously introduced it to them also.
Yes.
So do you have an episode, whether you're in it or not?
Well, I have to say Olsen versus Olsen, because that was like Baby Grace's episode. I mean, it was Ma's episode really, but we kind of like got a lot of attention in that episode, and I get more questions from that episode than any other, because why were you crying so bad? And it didn't look like that was acting. I was like, no. But my like personal favorite is Dance With Me with Ray Bolger. I love that episode. I love the love story that was told, and the scene with Ray Bolger and Baby Grace outside of the little house. That's my favorite scene ever, because I just feel like, how did I get to have this scene with Ray Bolger? Like, I don't know, it's kind of magical for me. So that's my favorite episode.
That's crazy. Yeah, some of the guest stars on the show were insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. Yeah. Oh, I heard a story that they put in that episode in Olsen vs. Olsen, that they put pepper in your oatmeal. Is that how they made you cry?
Yes.
That's cruel.
At least they asked my mom if it was okay, so she agreed. But they wanted it to be that Grace did not want to eat from Pa, obviously. And my mom says that after that episode, I never ate from him again. Brenda would, but I would look at him like, you got to be kidding me. So
that's terrible.
Hey.
Well, it worked. It worked, because that scene is hilarious. Very sad. Now that I know there's pepper in the oatmeal, I'm never going to look at that the same ever again. Now, I do want to say, you have written a really wonderful book called The Prairie Devotional, and it's a collection of stories from your life, from real life, and also taken from episodes of Little House on the Prairie. And it teaches spiritual lessons, and I have to tell you, it's been very meaningful to me reading it right now. As we all know, there's a lot of turmoil going around in the world right now, and it's been a very trying time. And I found myself in a really dark place and not knowing what to do. And that's when I decided to pick up your book. And within 10 seconds of reading it, I automatically felt better. And I just really want to thank you for that, because it's so well done. And I didn't know if I was necessarily going to relate to it. But what I love about it is that it's spiritual lessons that are universal. They are universal lessons taught by every spiritual teacher, master from centuries ago and modern day. And that everyone can relate to. And it sincerely helped me. So I really want to thank you about that. And I know that book came from a very challenging time in your life too. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, where the book came from.
Well, I think the reason why I could connect my life to Little House on the Prairie is I just see Little House on the Prairie as this family who's enduring like the ups and downs of life. And I think that we all can relate to that. And
yeah,
honestly, like I've had a wonderful life, but I've had some really hard chapters. And so to be able to share the joyous chapters and then the chapters that are just so hard, I think people can relate to that. So the book was born out of me having a brain tumor and just being really low and thinking, how am I to get through this? And I think that the pioneers lived that every day, just trying to survive. And so, so yeah, I think it was really fun because when my kids were little and we would watch it on every Monday night, we'd watch Little House because that's when I watched it as a kid. And my husband one night said, you should write a Little House on the Prairie devotional. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea, but it's probably not going to be me. And then after I had my brain tumor, I started writing. I just started a blog, and when I got done recuperating, I thought, you know what, I think I could maybe do this, because I think sometimes our hardest moments are when we learn the most about ourselves. And sometimes those things that are so challenging, we break through that and we can overcome our greatest fears. And that was totally me. Brain surgery was probably the hardest and best thing that ever happened to me. And so it was a big growing point for me. And this little book came out of it. So pretty fun.
The book is great. I hope everyone gets one. And you do speaking engagements, and I'm just very moved by your work. So thank you so much. And you're also doing Coach the World, right? Are you doing Coach the World?
I did sign up for Coach the World. Yeah, we'll see what happens, you know.
So if people want to talk to Wendi Lou Lee, you go on Coach the World. Mm-hmm. That's great. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Who should we talk to next? Well, since we talked to Ma, we need to talk to Pamela Roylance. Ma point two.
Ma.
Hello, Ma that we love. Hello, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Pam, you've been working nonstop since Little House on the Prairie. You were just saying you were just in the new Nancy Drew series, and just wrapped a film. I'm very happy for you that things have been. Little House seems to have been not a barrier for work happening.
Oh, no. In fact, Little House was such a gift to me because I didn't even have a Screen Actors Guild union card when I came here. I just had an actor card. And Mike hired me and Taft-Hartley'd me in to this entire experience. And it was something I always wanted. I was teaching high school in Portland, Oregon, and I would come home and watch the reruns in the afternoon after school. And I'd sit there and I'd think, why can't I move to California and get on a show like that? I love that show. And so my goal was to come to California and either do the Waltons, 8 is Enough, which was popular at the time.
Yeah.
And anything Walt Disney, or Little House on the Prairie. And I wrote that down. And I brought that with me, and that was my big dream. So when this happened for me, it was so fortuitous. A show that I'd been watching for 8 years, to be invited into the 9th season of that, for not just one guest star thing, but for the season, and to meet these people who I just worshipped and adored and thought I would love to work with them. And everyone lived up to my image of them and to my perceptions of them, which says a lot, a whole lot. So yeah, it's been a gift, and it launched me. It's what started me, and I've just been blessed since that time.
That's a great story. I have to say, you are the first and maybe only person I've talked to who ever watched the show before they came onto it.
I was a bonehead.
Dave and Dean, right? That's crazy.
Sure, I was a bonehead for sure. I was.
That's amazing. That's so cool. So how did that affect your audition process? Did you feel first of all, did you know that the Ingalls story was coming to an end and this new family was coming in and actually living in the house? Were you aware of that before you came in, or?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I do remember that they were bringing 6 new people onto the show at that time. And yes, I think it was to go in and to be an existing family. David, you can correct me if you remember that if I'm wrong. I think we knew ahead of time is to do that. And I think I had a series of about 6 auditions, and I had come from, maybe it was a little less than that. I had come from this audition maybe a half a year earlier to play the role of Sandy Horton on Days of Our Lives. And I go into this audition, and I am told, the casting director calls my agent and says, she's good. It's a shame she's so fat. And I was devastated, just devastated. I was working in a chocolate factory. So why wouldn't I eat the chocolates and be a little overweight? And my frame is not one of even though I was in the ingenue kind of area or category, I was not built to be that sexy bombshell sort of person. Yeah. And I just got in bed in the middle of the day, put the covers on my head and said, I hate this town, I hate these people, I hate this trophy wife stuff, I hate that I have to look this certain way. And my agent really tore me up, and he said, if you want to be in this age category and if you want to try for these roles, you've got to play this game and you've got to lose this weight. So I did not do that. And half a year, maybe 4 months later, we get this call for the Little House, and this, my dream come true. The 4 things I wanted to do, it was on my list. So the stakes were higher, and it meant a whole lot more. And Michael was so gracious. He called my agent and said, I like her, she's terrific, but she's gonna have to lose a little bit of weight for me. And he was so nice the way he said it, and it meant so much to me now. The stakes were higher, and so I did. I went on a crash diet, and I had a little bit of time, a few weeks, to get it together. And yeah, he was just very impressed that I had lost so much weight and that I was disciplined. And yeah, then it worked. Yeah.
How did you control your nerves? How did you focus yourself in that audition, knowing that you were a fan of the show, knowing that this was a dream job of yours, knowing that you were coming in to replace some major players? Do you know how you centered yourself? How you did it?
There were 3 things. Susan McCrae, who was the casting director, Susan Sookman McCrae, casting director, and Michael Landon, both. They really put me at ease. I'm not sure Mike might have been in on that first audition. Susan told me later he would hide behind her desk and he would listen to the audition, and he wasn't always revealing himself. And he just wanted to see who he had there. And that may have been my first audition. Later, he was in on them. And so he and she both had a way of just saying, just relax, just enjoy this and have fun. And then it was Stan who took over, Stan Ivar, who played John Carter, my husband.
Right.
And he came in with this amazing calm, and he was just so easy to audition with. And even on our final audition, we'd already met the boys. It was always a family already. We were sent to NBC, to the network, which is ice cold, tough, really, really hard to do your network audition. And we were told, Michael called us both, and he said, listen, go and don't worry. You're already cast. I'm the executive producer. I know that I want you. You are the family. Don't worry. Just go get it done. It's a formality. Don't even worry. And Stan said, let's meet in the park that's right across the street from NBC. And he said, let's rehearse. And we rehearsed, and he said, let's have fun. Don't worry. This is just going to be great. So it was really through the help, I think, of all three of them that got me through it.
I love that story so much.
Thank you.
See, you manifested it, baby. You manifested it.
Something to that.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do our 3 questions now, shall we? Which is your favorite episode, a favorite memory, and did you take any memorabilia?
My favorite episode was The Last Summer, featuring David Friedman as my son Jason and myself, and it starred Vera Miles. You were speaking earlier about the amazing guest stars on the show, and
yeah.
I really thought she was incredible, and to work opposite her was a gift. I cried when I read the episode. I cried when I saw it the first time, and then I watched it many times after that. And it took me years to stop crying when I would watch the episode. It's still incredibly touching to me. And there was a scene that we did where the director, Maury Dexter, he said, it's after lunch and you two, it was Vera and myself, he said, you two are in this zone here where you sound like you're the same voice. You sound like the same person I'm hearing talking. So I need you to sort of change that. And so Vera right away, she said, oh yeah, I will. And I said, well, I could do whatever. And he said, no, let the professional do it. And I thought, yeah, she is. She has much more history. She knows what she's doing. And so we redid the scene, and it's much, much better. She wrote me the most beautiful thank you card, handwritten thank you card after that. And it's a memory to me even still. So that was my favorite episode. Of course, working with David, I mean, just David is still amazingly charming. And as that little boy, he was captivating. So that was beautiful.
That I'm so glad David's here, because we have mother and daughter and mother and son here together. So Dave, let me ask you a question. Now, by the time you were auditioning for House on the Prairie, you were already a seasoned performer by that point. You'd been working since before you were a year old, is that right?
Hold on, I'm a bit verklempt.
Oh, all right, I'll give you a moment. Have your moment. Let's all take this moment.
Yeah, so I had started when I was 11 months old. I did a Pampers commercial, and then it just kind of we'll leave it at that. So yeah, and then I had done a bunch of commercials and sitcoms, and I was on all of the 80s shows, Chips, Highway to Heaven, Family Ties.
Your 80s show resume is like an 80s kid's dream. It is unbelievable.
Thank you. But yeah, and then when I read for Little House, I didn't realize until really, I mean, I kind of did, but the reunion last year put everything in perspective for me, and it was just, I'm just very gracious that I had the opportunity to do that.
In what way did it put it in perspective?
Well, ever since I got out of the business when I was 12, I've just been a regular person. I went to college, I got married, had kids, I was in corporate America. I didn't touch the industry at all since. And then I got contacted by Paul and decided to go to the event, and I'm thinking, who's going to appreciate some washed up 46-year-old who has been out of the industry for a long time. And then I just remember vividly, once we showed up that morning in the bus, I stepped off the bus. I felt like I was Paul McCartney or something. And it was like, who am I, Anyway, a bit of a divergence. What was your question?
Who cares? Just keep talking to me. It's all good. No, my question, I didn't really ask you a question other than I would love to hear your audition story and what you remember from that.
Yeah, so I do remember my initial audition, and I remember Susan was awesome. I don't know if it was Susan and Kent or just Susan. Anyway, it was awesome. I don't recall how many auditions I've had, but I've talked to Pam subsequently. And again, I don't think I knew the enormity of the show. I never watched it, admittedly. I was aware of how popular it was, obviously, and I was aware that this wasn't a one-off, and I'd be a regular. So that resonated with me. Yeah, and it was amazing. And what Pam said earlier about the favorite episode, I guess I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. And that was obviously my favorite episode as well. From what I heard, Michael Landon kind of wrote that episode around me. I was in just about every scene. And again, Vera Miles, yes. Also Eric Christmas, who I didn't know that at the time. But if you look back at his resume, that man has done a lot of cool stuff. And that was just an amazing episode. I had a blast.
Now, did it feel, and I'll ask both you, Pam and Dave, how did it feel that being the new kids on the block and coming in, I have to say, it takes nerve for Michael Landon to have taken this family that we grew up with for the past 7, 8 seasons,
right,
and replace them, not just them, put them in the actual home that we associate the Ingalls with. And the man must have known, because it worked. It worked. I know maybe it took a hot second for people to go, wait, what? But it worked. I know I really, really liked the Carters, and I didn't mind them being in that house. It made sense to me. I call them, Ma 1 and Ma 2. They sort of, the archetypes were similar of the kids and the adults. But man, oh man, what a risk that must have been for Michael Landon to do that. Instead of just sort of ending the series, but it worked. And so what I'm asking is, what was that experience like for you guys coming on to set for the first time, or the first few times, and knowing this is a brand new show? Were you worried that you wouldn't be accepted into this world by the viewers?
Yes, I think it was a very big worry. I think I was more worried about how I would feel with the cast, because we just didn't know how they would feel about us. Now, part of it was 6 people. Michael Landon's daughter, Leslie Landon, came on as the new school teacher, Miss Plum. And Shannon Doherty came on as Jenny Wilder, Amanto's niece and Melissa's niece, or Laura. And so it helped that we were part of a whole new group. But I was, and still to this day, was completely amazed at the open arms that were there from every single member of the cast that year, our first day of work. And it stayed that way the whole time. We were welcomed in so warmly. And I don't know, maybe Dean can speak to this, if Mike had a talk with everyone and said, I want you to embrace these people, but that's exactly what it felt like. We were fully embraced by the cast. I'm not sure that we were terribly well received by the audience for, in my mind, quite a while. Because I would just talk to people and they'd say, oh yeah, we quit watching after Ma and Pa Ingalls left. And I thought, yeah, I probably would have too.
So let me piggyback off that for a real quick second. So when I was on the show, I just showed up and read the lines, right? I don't think I knew the enormity of it. However, after I was at the event last year, I realized that it's kind of a touchy subject, and the Carter family almost has an asterisk next to it, and we kind of feel like, you know, the redheaded stepchild. But I didn't know that at the time because I was a kid. I showed up, I read my lines.
Right.
But I knew, I know that now that it's kind of a dicey situation. Some people were behind the Carters. Some people were like, well, what are these doing? That family's not worthy. So yeah, I'd like to defer to Dean. And even
people get so serious. They're fiction. It's fiction.
Right. I'm really curious on Karen's take too, on what her, how she viewed that family entering her house and what that meant to her too.
Yeah, Dean and Karen, I want to hear what you have to say, if anything.
Karen, why don't you speak to that first?
I was ready to leave Little House on the Prairie. I gave them a year's notice, and I didn't have any interest in watching Little House in New Beginning. So I'll be perfectly honest with you. I got married. I had a family. That was what I wanted. I can tell you that I didn't appreciate any of your work because I didn't see it. So that is a plain, honest.
I love it.
I love it too.
I love it.
Sorry.
That's so great.
No, I love it.
That's like the best answer I've ever heard in my entire life.
I thought, maybe when I got to have grandchildren, I would start watching Little House on the Prairie again. That still hasn't happened. So
Wow.
I haven't watched myself either. So, it's
Wow.
okay.
Wow. Well,
It's really good.
well, let me add, Karen, if you had decided that you had wanted to watch Little House, A New Beginning just a little bit, I think that you would have been very impressed with Stan and Pam and Lindsay and David. I just think
I agree.
I think they were really amazing on the program and just stepped in as comfortably as any group of people could step in. They were easy and relaxed, and the work was really, really good. I think if you watched a little part of an episode, you would feel, wow, the show was in very good hands moving forward with the Carter family, with that grouping of people. They were just all really good. So there's time now. You can watch it now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Dean, do you remember, did you guys know that Michael was ending sort of the Ingalls' run on the show, and that this new family was coming in?
I think obviously at that point I had to have been aware. But I can tell you now, thinking back on it, I don't have any really big memory of knowing that the change was coming. But Michael certainly explained what he was going to do. So, but I don't have any. I just don't have any really huge sense of it, other than feeling like as soon as I met all of them, that this was going to be a very comfortable addition to the program. I think that was the gut feeling I had meeting everyone. I just said, well, they're all so good. They're right in the zone of where the show lives in terms of just who they are, what they bring, the look, the sound, the qualities that they brought were so in sync with what the program was about tonally that there was just no doubt they were going to be successful.
So Dean, we're talking to you already, so I'll continue talking with you. Hello,
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, sure.
Again, you joined me for the after the show talk after Bonnet Heads Anonymous. Which is episode
Which I
3 of Livin' on
loved,
the
by the
Prairie.
way. Yeah.
Thanks. I love it too. Ridiculous. But it's interesting. We're talking about, so Pam and Dave, you actually were able to audition together. That's the first sort of chemistry read story I've heard from any of the cast. Dean, we didn't talk really about Lucy Lee Flippin. I think that they were casting both of your roles right around the same time. Did you guys ever audition together?
No, there was no, we did not meet for the first time until we met that morning of May 22nd, 1979, when we both started on the same day, on the first day of production for season 6. That's the first time we met. And, I just think it speaks to the skill level in the casting office with Susie. Yeah. And I think Michael had a very, always just a really keen instinct about what he wanted on the program. I have always felt with Lucy that if I could have had a big sister, I would have loved it to have been her. I just think she is amazing. And there's a sweetness and a vulnerability about Lucy that's just, and a funniness about Lucy that just immediately jumps out at you. And I just felt instantly comfortable with her. And we have remained friends. I mean, we've all remained friends. But I really value that relationship, because we came into this together. We were, at that point, we were the newcomers at that point. And so we really did bond together to step in and try and do what we were being asked to do, and it was important that we get along well together.
Yeah, it's really crazy for me to think that you and Lucy Lee, or you and Melissa Gilbert, I was talking with Alison before, and she and Steve Tracy didn't have a chemistry read. No one seemed to have a chemistry read together. They were just cast independently, and it worked perfectly. So again, that is a testament to Michael Landon and the casting department, because that seems really wild to me that no one was paired together in the same room, except for Pam and Stan and Dave.
Yeah, I think it's lovely that Pam and Stan got an opportunity to meet each other. But I would imagine, knowing what we know about the way that Michael and Susie worked, they knew it was going to be the two of them. I can't imagine that there was a mix and match process going on. They knew these were the two. And it's just, so I guess in some ways, just a nice courtesy for them to get to meet each other before and maybe work together. And knowing that they were going to have to audition together at NBC, maybe that's a part of why they brought them together. That would have been a very nerve-wracking experience. Joel Thurm was not an easy guy to go in and audition for at NBC.
A cold room.
Yeah, I would think a very.
Why did they do that? Why do they do that to the actors? It's so cruel. Okay, well, we'll get to your favorite episode, your favorite memory, and any memorabilia. Although I think we talked about the memorabilia last time, but we can recap that. But one viewer wanted to know, what was your favorite Almanzo storyline? You had a lot of good ones.
I think for me, I think probably from a standpoint of the work that I got to do, Days of Sunshine, Days of Shadow, at the end of season 8, this was really the first 4 years. This was the final Little House book, basically, that Michael put together in a 2-part episode. So, there's the diphtheria, there's the stroke, there's the loss, a loss of the house, recovery
Poor baby
from
Grace
the stroke.
runs away, through the field. Poor baby Grace runs away. Seeing Melissa Gilbert's total and utter breakdown. Yes, go on. Continue.
Yeah, so I think it was, from that standpoint, it was really a fun episode to do. There was a lot of preparation involved, and, figuring out what was playable in terms of the symptoms of diphtheria, what was playable in terms of the effects of a stroke. figuring that out, working that out, that was a really nice thing to get an opportunity to do. I just want to say there, in terms of the series itself, as a totality, there are a number of favorite episodes. The Lord is My Shepherd, the 2-part episode, I think was just a quintessential Little House episode that's beautiful and emotional. And Melissa Gilbert, at the absolute power of what she brought as a little girl to this, was just heartbreaking and beautiful and touching, and she was amazing. Ernest Borg didn't hurt to be doing it with Ernest Borgnine. He was amazing. Right. There's an episode that we don't really talk about very much, and I want to throw this to Karen. The Handyman. And, I thought Karen was pretty hot in The Handyman.
So hot. Oh my gosh. When her hair is down, it's all happening, people.
When Karen walks into the room with the hair down and that hair. There's sort of a come hither look working with Karen. I just thought it was very hot. And Karen is always, Karen knows that I fall over myself telling her how wonderful she is whenever I talk to her. I absolutely love Karen. I have such respect for what she did on the show during the years, all the years that she was there. But I just was thinking about The Handyman and today, and thinking, she was really pretty sexy in the show, and that's not a descriptor that generally we use when we think about Little House. And I just thought she was wonderful in the show, really wonderful.
Karen, did you enjoy being sexy on that episode?
Oh, I just loved having this handsome guy come and flirt with me and be obsessed with me.
Yes.
That was really fun. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Karen, you were really
viewers, and I don't think the viewers would have been upset. Hint.
I think there was another sexy relationship, and that was Dean and Melissa in their early marriage. I'm serious. I'm serious. When she had to leave her husband to come to Nellie's hotel to stay for property rights because Ma wanted her to, she really didn't want to. And she was really pulling, and I really felt that physical life between them. I liked it.
I liked it too. I think the viewers did too.
Well, well, thank you for that, Karen. That's lovely. I think I've always said I wish that Melissa and I had been about 3 years closer together in age and about 3 years older when we'd done this. I wish I'd been 3 years younger and she'd been 3 years older. I think it would have enhanced the dynamic of what was going on. I always felt that it was so carefully done. Every moment was so careful. But it's lovely that you picked up on a kind of sensuality in Melissa's work, and I marvel at what she did in all of that, because I think she was working way outside the boundaries of her experience at that point in her life, and certainly in the beginning of it, it was way outside the boundaries of her life experience. And she's just she was a gutsy kid, and she's a gutsy woman. She really is. She has always been that.
Big ups for Melissa Gilbert, if you're watching.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Yeah.
All right, Dean, favorite episode, favorite memory. Wait, did we just say that?
We did do favorite episodes. We've been waxing on a number of episodes.
I love it.
Oh, by the way, I did watch Sweet 16 with my wife, Catherine, because I opined about my anxieties about it to you when we talked personally. And Catherine gave me a thumbs up on Sweet 16 after she finished.
Dean, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. So anyway, so I can let that go now and just let it live on.
I'm glad
Yeah,
I was able to do that for you, Dean.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In terms of memories, I think a couple of memories. One directly related to the show, and not necessarily to any particular moment in being in the show, but that first time arriving on the set, first day of shooting in season 6, out at Big Sky. I just remember just walking in, and everybody was there for this. So I just remember walking into that and seeing the enormity of the show in terms of the footprint that was down at Simi Valley, the number of trucks, the number of crew, the trailers, the horses, the wagons, everybody, and obviously all of the cast who was there, and everybody was, you just felt like you were stepping into something that was big, and you could tell that it was a happy group. You could tell that people were proud to be a part of it. They were happy to be there. And so it was a very welcoming, it was a very welcoming time. And, that was just this enormous blessing. I'd had a pretty great weekend. I had just turned 23 on Saturday the 20th. I walked through my college graduation exercises that same day, got in my car and drove to Southern California and started work on this life-changing experience in the span of 2 days. It was just, it was a pretty remarkable time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insane. That is insane. All right. Well, I want to talk to the whole gang now. I have our fan winner video question for you.
Hi, I'm Anne Maria. I'm in New York City, and I grew up watching Little House on the Prairie every day after school from 5 to 6 on WPIX 11 Alive. And for me, that was such an emotional time. And I cried so much watching that show. And I really needed that. I needed to really own my emotions and express them. And the show gave me that. What it also gave me was a sea of images burned on my brain that break my heart. And when you blew up the town at the end, for example. But did you have any moments like that really tore you apart when you were filming? And if so, how did you support one another? Because I know that you did. And if you would also, anyone would also like to share, to balance that out, a moment of comedy that you could let us in on that happened off screen that we weren't privy to, we would love that too. Thank you.
I can jump in. I think, and I would be very surprised if it wasn't the same. At least everybody had some piece of this. That last day when we were all gathered in Simi Valley after the town had been blown up, and we are witnessing with the smoke rising from the buildings and all of that. That was a pretty devastating time for a whole range of reasons. And I think everyone was sort of in their own space for that. And Michael didn't say much to anybody in terms of the little scenes that we did, the little mini scenes. I think he knew that the circumstance that we were in was enough. Nothing needed to be said. It was just a very personal, and the fact that we were all there together, sharing in it, was the support.
If I could jump in on that too, Dean, that's
Please.
What I noticed too. There was a quiet that day. There was a stillness out there in that valley, and it was respectful. And I remember thinking, I've only just gone through 1 year with these people. I can't imagine what they're all feeling, having this being the end of their 9th. And it was heavy for me, and I just thought, this is incredible for them. And it was, as Dean says, people weren't really talking. There wasn't a laughter or joking, which there usually was on that set. And it was just quiet and serene, and sad. A lot of tears.
Yeah.
And were there any funny memories you remember? Funny stories that would happen?
Michael was a great joker, and he liked to keep his crew laughing. Whether he told actual jokes, you know, that he heard when he was on Johnny Carson, or whether it was a joke he heard 10 years before. He had a photographic memory for jokes. I, on the other hand, try to tell a joke, and I start out fine, but then I get to the punchline and I can't remember it. So it's very frustrating. What he would do on the set, for example, he was holding the baby. It wasn't the real baby, it was a doll. And we're shooting, and then the shot is over, and whoop, he threw the baby. So then everybody would absolutely crack up because it was so incongruous, you know.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that all the time.
I remember it was one of my first days of work, and Melissa and I had to walk away from John and El Manzo, and I think kind of head down the road. And as we took off, we got to a certain point, and we still hadn't heard cut. And Melissa said, said, hang on, you're in for a long walk. And I said, we're trying to speak, we got hot mics on us, but we're trying to speak quietly. And I said, what are you talking about? She says, oh, it's a big joke. They'll get you clear up a hill before you finally have the guts to turn around and look at them, and they're all just laughing and joking because said cut, you know, when one would expect it, but he would let you just go. So
yeah, I'm sure everyone got that at least once.
Yeah,
at least once. Everyone had to go through that.
You know, what's so nice in talking with all of you is that, you know, pretty much across the board, everyone just talks about how nice of a place it was to be. And how different it was than working on other sets, other jobs.
There were certainly moments that people had. There were not, this was not always, this is as much as everyone, or certainly Michael as a director and a producer and star and writer, you know, I think he tried to keep things an atmosphere that was loose, but you know, there could be tension at times around. People would be feeling things. There's pressure. There's a lot of pressure. As much as people try to dissipate it and make it not pressure, but I think there is pressure, and I think sometimes it can work on you. And you know, how you cope with that pressure is sort of, you know, helps. It sort of defines who you are and what you're about. It wasn't, so I think there was always a desire to keep it loose and easy, but there were moments. I think everyone had moments, I mean, right up to the top, where there would be moments of tension.
Yeah.
And, but I would say this, once that tension passed, that moment passed, you moved on. It was over and next. So, you know, nothing really stuck, but there could be moments of tension.
Sure.
You know, the myth of how perfect everything is on Little House on the Prairie is lovely, and we all try to support that with our fans. But you know, there were moments of jokes that were racist, jokes that were sexist. Very unpleasant and uncomfortable moments like that. And, you know, the time that we're in right now is exposing through first the hashtag #MeToo movement, and now the tremendously wonderful demonstrations, the peaceful demonstrations that are going on, and the expression of the rage and the frustration at being held back, you know, for generations. I think there were aspects of that in our set, and it was because that's how things were.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how things were. And if you wanted to keep your job, you were supposed to go along with it. You know, that was part of it too. That's the kind of thing that some of us are being asked now to speak out when we hear it, to do something rather than to let it ride by and be, you know, maybe just quietly ashamed, you know. So, like no place else on earth, it wasn't perfect either.
Right. I really appreciate you saying that, because and I know I've experienced this also, where on paper it looks perfect. And if anyone knew, if they just lifted up the curtain a little bit, what was actually going on inside. Certainly not saying that Little House on the Prairie was a terrible, toxic place, but I appreciate the honesty of that, because nothing is perfect. And people like to fantasize because the characters are fantasy, that's what real life was. And you know, you're actors and this is a job, and I'm sure some days were wonderful and some days were hard. And I appreciate it also, Karen, because I do feel like what's happening right now is not just a moment, but a movement, how Me Too was as well. And it gives me great hope what is happening right now through all the turmoil and the tragedy. And that's why people are watching Little House on the Prairie right now, more than ever. Because it speaks to that sense of community.
Well, it provides a kind of comfort that is that people who are seeking it are happy to find there. And I think, look, no one would, that's what we were all there to do. And I think to everyone's credit, everyone, cast and crew and the whole group, which is a large group of people, there was a unified commitment as to what we were trying to do. And, you know, so, okay, moments of tension, sure. Moments of discomfort, sure. But the mission was clear. The mission was always clear. And I think, to everyone's credit, everybody, the mission was pursued, always pursued.
And maybe speaking a little too to that, and to Karen's comments, you know, you're telling the story of a young girl and her perspective and her experience of her life at that time in those places where she was, and beautifully told. And that's, I think, the beauty of our medium, is that we tell stories, and we tell all kinds of stories, and with those stories come incredible messages and education and teaching and ways to uplift and to change and to make social statements. And I think that's the beauty of being a part of all of this.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why great societies have great arts and artists, because we're the ones who actually facilitate change and influence and shine a light on what's actually happening in the world, good, bad, everything in between. Yeah, the world needs us big time.
I will say one thing is that, being a child, and a very young child on the show, my mom just couldn't believe how wonderful it was. And so she didn't deal with the tensions because we didn't carry that.
Right.
And so when we left Little House, we did one commercial, and that changed everything, because it was so awful for my mom. And she thought, this is not like Little House. Like, these people don't care about my girls at all. And we left that day of shooting, and she said, we're done. She fired our agent, and we went to kindergarten, and we never stepped foot anywhere again, because it didn't live up to Little House. You know, so I think maybe for the children, maybe it was a different story. You know, I think the kids maybe didn't have to endure those tensions or those things, that maybe a lot of it just went over their heads.
Sure.
I'd like to speak to your experience, because I thought your mother was unbelievably gifted. Here was a woman with these two twins, toddlers, and this sister. And here she was with 3 children to keep entertained, and long hours for them. And she'd bring out a quilt, spread it out on the ground. They would sit there and she'd have them happy, entertained, relaxed. I mean, I just marvel at how she handled the situation. And it is also true that there were certain standards because we had so many children on the show, that there was respect in the way of language and, manners and things that you don't necessarily find on a set. Because I've seen what you're talking about too. And that would have been horrific if I had seen the children mistreated. It would have been horrific. I don't think I could have handled it. But there were also the kinds of things that go on with school children where they pick sides and where they gang up, and it was real life.
We're getting real on the prairie, everybody. I love it. I really appreciate everyone's candor about it, to make it a well-rounded experience, not just one thing. I do. I really appreciate it.
I just want to add something light to that, kind of what Wendi was saying.
Yeah.
You would ask my mom about her experience bringing me on the set every day. And she'd say, "Oh, poor me. I have to look at Michael, Stan, and Dean all day long." God, Stan was the most gorgeous thing ever. And he's a good-looking guy. But she was like, "Oh, my God, this guy is gorgeous." I just had to throw that in there.
I like your mom, Dave. I like your mother. Are you ready, everybody?
Sure.
The first question is highly controversial. Nellie or Nancy? Which one is worse?
Oh, which one's
Anyone.
worse?
Which one's worse?
Or
you
can interpret that however you want.
Nancy, absolutely.
I agree. Nancy.
Nancy's worse. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Nancy's worse. Something's actually chemically wrong with her, right? That's my take on it. Like a nice Jewish man is not going to fix that crazy, right?
Yeah,
okay,
Nancy
good. We
was
agree.
really evil. Nancy was evil.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. The other group, that was a big controversy, this question. I'm glad we're all on the same page.
Really?
Well, Karen, what do you think?
I wasn't there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
you
Nellie.
missed her. Yeah.
I missed the bad seed.
Yeah,
and she was the bad seed.
Actually,
which is, I mean, that is kind of what she seemed like to me, was the bad seed. There was something with Nellie where she was so much like her mother.
Yeah,
that
Harriet.
It was Harriet. It was more like the poking fun of, and that they both end up looking so silly and have to laugh at themselves or have to go away pouting, and it was something that was real identical with the two of them. There was something a little more distant, I thought, with Nellie, just a little.
You mean with Nancy?
Yes, Nancy. Yeah, that little more of that, as you say, a bad seed sort of thing.
Yeah, she cray cray. We can all say it. She cray cray. Okay. The next one is a visual for you guys. Can anyone explain what is wrong with these pictures? They're 2 separate episodes.
Oh, the nail polish.
Truly.
Ding, ding,
the nail polish.
What is up with the French tips on the prairie?
Yeah. This is, I can tell you, this was Melissa when Melissa was starting to have a social life.
Yes, older Melissa.
Yeah, she was starting to go out at night after, on little dates. And yeah, she would come in with these fingernails, and this rare that you would see them there. Because usually she had her fingers, when she hugged, she had her hands closed, and she would hug.
Wow.
So that was one of those rare moments.
Well, I know, because I only caught it that one time with her nails. I was like, Laura, but Melissa Sue seemed to have them a lot.
You know what happened? As the years went on, as women, we began to feel worn down by the calico and the plainness, and I actually, there's a still of me with the same thing, beautiful nails. And I look at that and I go, well, you really needed to get off that show.
Yeah, I know there was when we did the last summer, we were working on a hot day out at the outdoor set, and they allowed me to unbutton the first couple of buttons and roll up the sleeves. And there was a little bit of discussion on whether or not that should happen. And they just decided, well, it's a hot day and you are in the privacy of your own home in the backyard. Even though Eric Christmas came up in the wagon to talk to me, but yeah, there was a certain thing even
Bringing
about
the sexy back to the prairie.
Yeah.
I just love it. The French tip in the prairie. I just love it. It cracks me up every time I see it. It just makes me howl with laughter. So I'm not mad at it. I think it's hilarious. Okay.
They were becoming young women,
Yes, yes.
And they had other opportunities as actresses. They wanted to look pretty. I mean, it's
And it was
totally
the 80s.
understandable. And I guess, if you're just, it's hard. It's just hard.
It cracks me up. I'm like, is Miss Whipple giving manicures on her downtime? I don't know. Okay, here's our final controversial question. Dun, dun, dun. Who had it worse, Mary or Albert? And I will give you examples. Mary had scarlet fever, was kicked by a horse, set the barn on fire, boyfriend cheats on her and dumps her, goes blind, another boyfriend dumps her, she wanders through a sandstorm with her French tip, loses a baby in the fire, a tragic wagon accident, burglars hold her hostage at the blind school, her husband regains her sight, not her, and she gets a terrible haircut. So
you forgot about the wolves.
Oh, and the wolves, right.
And the wolves. That was terrifying.
And the wolves. Okay. I'm sure there's a lot I've missed on this list. Okay. Then there's Albert, an orphan living under a staircase, accidentally sets the blind school on fire, killing Mary's baby and Alice. Hello. Girlfriend is serial raped by a man in a clown mask. Becomes addicted to morphine, pukes all over himself, gets a rare blood disease, bleeds out of his nose profusely, climbs a mountain, and most likely dies. Who had it worse?
Mary.
I think Mary. Mary, definitely.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Everyone was quick about that answer.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, Mary, Mary went blind. I mean, I think that was like, I think for
Aaron.
I think for Melissa Sue, I think that was a very tough. Okay, putting the character aside, I think for Melissa Sue, the going blind thing was, that part of the storyline which everyone knew was coming.
Yeah.
I think that there was an interesting aspect to that to her to play initially, and then I think it really, in terms of what she could do on the program, really put her in a box. And I think that was challenging for her. And all that said, she had a lot of bad stuff happen. There was a lot of crying and a lot of hysteria. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, were you going to say something, Karen? Karen's just laughing.
I just think as boxes go, that was a lot of drama that she had to play.
Yes, that's true.
I agree. I think that I think out of everyone, she had the most exciting storyline. She had all the crap happen to her. I mean, Albert had a lot of crap happen too. Hello, clown rape. Okay, so that's interesting. You all said Mary. Fascinating. Now we have one last thing, and it is also a visual for you guys. Whose picture was in the background of every single episode of Livin' on a Prairie? Bam! Michael Landon.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 1.
Ah, there he is.
There he is. Episode 2, there's Matthew Leberteau and Michael Landon.
Funny.
Oh, yeah.
We had the cute boys as inspiration for us. Michael Landon is in the background right there.
No way.
That's
Michael
nice
Landon
Amish.
in the coffee cup.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Sakes. Wow. Good for you,
And
Pam. Good for you.
Michael Landon in the scrunched up, snotty rags on the table that I was crying into. Okay, and then the next one, you wouldn't be able to tell, but in the background are Michael Landon, Matthew Leberteau, and my hashtag imaginary boyfriend, Dean Butler.
Hey.
You made the cut, Dean.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for that. It's a little, the focus is soft, so I can't tell.
It's
I just
very
look at
soft
these, I
focus.
look at these tattoos on Charlotte's arms. And think, how long did that take?
That was awesome.
You guys, I cannot thank you enough for participating, for being here, for supporting me, for supporting the show. I love you all very much. You've impacted my life and thousands, if not millions, of other people's lives, and it keeps going. And
And
yes,
give to the
auction.
Actors Fund.
Yes, that's what I was just about to say. Give to the
that's why we
Actors Fund. I will remind you one more time, the auction, the online auction, which has awesome personalized autographed items from the cast of Little House on the Prairie. If you go to CharityBuzz.com/actorsfund, you can bid. And also donate at actorsfund.org/donate. There's also a button here on the website, a button on Facebook, and please give what you can. And thank you for being here, and I appreciate it so much.
Pam, thank you. It was so
Thank
fun.
you, Pam.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you guys. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.